Hello, everyone. When I tell you that I recorded this demo 3 times now, beginning to end, and forgot to turn my mic on every single time, here we go again. So, Applied Media, designing a business card. We are going to kind of speed through this. This is just for anybody who's at this phase. If you are not here yet, don't panic. So, 3 things that I want you to write down for notes. You can write these in your guided notes from the last presentation, just so it's all in one place. But you should know what the standard business card size is. You should know what similarity means, and then you should know what font and what size font you should use with business cards. So, first thing you want to think about is determining what type of business card you're making. If you're making something for a company versus a product versus a client or a employee somewhere, and then one for yourself, those are all very different business cards. And then when you select one, so for you guys, you're doing your own personal business cards. Who is your target audience? What are they looking for? So are you making a business card that you can give to fellow creative people to just kind of show like, hey, this is what I do, this is my identity? Or are you showing it to employers and saying, hey, this is my workplace experience and my skills? Or are you showing this to clients and saying, this is the stuff I can do? So think about it. You are all creative people, and I know that if somebody handed you a business card, you would make a snap judgment on it and think something about it. So think about if somebody handed you a card and you looked at it, what would you be looking for? Are you looking for illustrations? Are you looking for a pop of color, typography, and design according to that? So determining your size. The only thing I want you to actually remember is that 3.5 by 2 inches is the standard business card size. So it fits in the wallet. It's like the size of a debit card. That's pretty much the reason why it's that size. But business cards can be literally whatever you want. And I've seen some really weird ones. And I think the weird ones are the ones that are often the most effective. Because if you think of what's the purpose of a business card, it's communicating information, it's getting your information to somebody. And in order for somebody to absorb information, they have to be interested and engaged, right? If I came in here and I had like no PowerPoints and, I just spoke in a monotone and I said, hey guys, we're going to be talking about business cards today. 3.5 by 2 is the standard size. You guys would literally, one, hate me, and two, never pay attention or absorb anything. So think about how can you make it interesting? How can you make it dynamic? This is a really easy way to do it. I love square business cards. I am going to ban you from circles and half circles, only because we can't produce those in our lab. We don't have a die cut machine, but we can do regular business cards. We can do square ones. I did get a tool to make rounded corners, so we can do those. And folded business cards is just a square folded. We can do those. So these two off limits. The rest go crazy. After you decide what size, you got to think about what information you're including. So if you were designing this for a client, you want to ask this question in your initial meeting or in the first email you send, and you want to have some kind of process where they themselves are confirming that their information is correct, because people will not proofread things sometimes, and there's nothing worse than sending something out for production and print and making 1,000 copies of it, and they misspelled their email and they're all wrong. So think about that if you ever make a business card for someone in the future. If you're making your own personal business card, you are all deciding what you're putting on these. So I want these to actually be usable for you. We're going to produce them in class, and maybe you're giving these to people that you're networking with, and you're not necessarily trying to get hired, but you're trying to say, hey, look, like these are my skills. This is the stuff I do. Then you're going to have different business card information. So I want you to, at the very least, have your full name and your occupation. When I say occupation, think of it like the field that you're interested in more so. So if you want to be an animator, photographer, general graphic designer, fine artist, that should be there somewhere, just so they know what you're about. Because if I handed someone a business card of mine and they're like, oh, can you design a website for me? I would say, that's my least favorite thing on earth to do. No, thank you. So phone number, obviously, they need some way to contact you. Fax, I don't think many of you are rocking a fax machine, but if you do, go crazy. Email, this is also a must. Website, if you don't have a live website, and it's not fully finished and updated, I wouldn't put it on your business card, just because you create that risk of putting yourself out there with something that is unfinished, and that is not a good reflection as a designer of any field to say like, hey, look at my stuff, and they go and look at your stuff and it's like this half web page with, not everything done. So after that, general design process. I'm not going to grade you based on whether or not you do thumbnails, but I highly, highly encourage you spend like 10, 15 minutes doing some thumbnails, just because you have a lot of stuff you have to organize on these. You got your logo, you got your name, your occupation, your contact information, some kind of flow element to match the front to the back. That's hard to just sit at a blank canvas and figure all that stuff out. So do some really quick sloppy thumbnails just to serve the purpose of organizing information. While you are doing those, I want you to consider 3 more things: similarity, hierarchy, and legibility. So similarity, the human eye tends to build a relationship between similar elements within a design. So what that means is that if you include any repeating elements, something that carries on from the front to the back, from the front to the back, and half of the time this is just the same graphic, the same vector art, copied and pasted from the front to the back. It is a really easy way to make your business cards feel cohesive and to make them feel unified. So you don't have to have this to have a strong business card. There are definitely ones that don't have it that are still good, but it's a really easy way to make a really strong card without much effort, right? Because you're just kind of reusing stuff. Hierarchy is the next one. So obviously, when you have 6, 5, 7, however many pieces of information, you want to have some game plan for how you're organizing that. You should have a very distinct plan, and it's up to you. Maybe you want them to look at your logo first because you think it's really strong. Maybe you want them to pay attention to your name and remember your name over anything else. That's up to you, but you should have a plan. And it should be easy for me to look at it and tell that you had a plan. So when I look at this, Paul Browning logo works when you need the very best. I'm reading a poem, and then I'm looking at his goofy face, and I don't even get, like, the contact information is the last thing I see. That's not good. Do not do this. This one, it's very simple to tell the visual hierarchy of this. I look at this logo first. It's circular. It's centered in here. It's bright orange on black. It's got emphasis. I start here. There's a literal arrow pointing me down to the name. I know he's David Smith. I know he's whatever that is. I can't read it. It's too small. And then I go to the information. I know how to get into contact with him. My pea brain, whether I know a lot about design or absolutely nothing, can comprehend what I'm looking at. I have no idea what I'm looking at with this one. Legibility. So 2 things: 10-point to 16-point font and sans serif. So for anyone who needs a refresher, serifs are those little hooks on certain fonts. You don't want those in, especially in the information. So you could have, like, maybe the logo title that you designed has serif font or some kind of decorative font. That's fine. Your name, that's fine too, because it's big enough that it's legible. But any of the other information definitely needs to be sans serif. It needs to be at least 10 points big. So you want to be able to hold your card out. This is close to the camera, but you want to be able to hold it out like arm's length and still be able to read it. And if you can't, it's probably too small. So I have a little exercise. I think this will be fun for you guys. After this video ends, you have 15 minutes to look for what you think is the best business card that exists. Once you find one, you're going to select it and you're going to print it to scale. So it says resize in Photoshop to a standard business size. What is our standard business size? 3.5 by 2. So literally copy and paste a business card from Google, paste it into a Photoshop document that is 3.5 by 2, and size it to that. And then when you print, make sure that you're just printing to scale and not fit to page. And they don't have to be perfect, but there shouldn't be a business card on the wall that is like that big, right? So print them, cut them with scissors. Do not get into the X-Acto knives, please, because I have to give you a safety test before you are allowed to use those. Pennsylvania Department of Education. We'll get to that soon. But use scissors, and then it is your job to organize them from best to worst. So I want you to take into consideration, similarity. Do they have those flowing elements that make the front and the back feel cohesive? Hierarchy. So can you tell what you're looking at? Can you tell the flow of information and how it's supposed to be read? And then legibility. Can you read it? Can you read it from a short distance? So you're all picking what you think is the best business cards, right? You're going to have to do some arguing to figure out which ones are actually the best. But it's up to you guys as a class. And the reason we're doing this is after you've categorized them all, you're going to hang them from best at the top to worst at the bottom. And you can do one vertical line of business cards all the way up the wall, or maybe you could do like 2 or 3 columns just so it's not super long. It's up to you. I want this to be your decision. The reason that we're doing this, I want you to take a picture when you're done and send it to me on Teams. 1, just so I can look at it. And 2, the next day, before the AM kids get there on Wednesday morning, I'm going to take all of it down and I'm going to hand it to them and I'm going to let them reorganize it. So I think it'll be interesting because the AM kids have less context, less education than you as of now, and they haven't learned this stuff yet. They don't know what makes a business card good. They know very little about typography in general, or branding, or anything like that. So I think it'll be really interesting to compare how the 2 different classes organize everything. After that, I got one thing I want to show you. If we remember, the finalized logo is due Wednesday at the start of class. So what that means is the template that I shared with you guys, this part of the template should be done. So this one, ignore it. That'll be filled out after you finish your business card design. But the left side should be completed. And I'll be checking on Wednesday. I'm not going to like grade them on Wednesday, but I will look and just make sure they're all done right and we're not running into any issues. If you notice here, I did some changes, so I might actually be able to sit and undo that so I can show you because, you know, I recorded this demo so many times now. But you guys have the little placeholder box and the description. If you want to, this is the way I would choose to lay this out, but I want to leave it up to you. I would get rid of the placeholder box. It doesn't really serve any purpose, and it opens up that negative space, just makes it feel less contained. And then what I would do, make sure you're aligning these to your grid somewhere. And then probably downsize it to like maybe 12 or 14 point font. And then you could add like a little arrow or even just a line or something that points you to it. Oh my goodness. There we go. Illustrator Legend. And it's just a really easy way to make your portfolio digestible to anyone. So whether they are somebody from the industry who's very familiar with how things are laid out, or, you know, it's your grandma and she's looking at all your pretty art and congratulating you, she can look at this and read and understand that this is what it is. So I would recommend doing it like that. It's up to you as long as all this content is on there. I got one more quick thing with these Pantones. I wanted to do a quick refresher on these just because I don't know if you learn this. So with Pantones and with any color, you can double click and read all the color information. So this right here is a hex code. As you can see, I have it written there. And then RGB is just your RGB percentages. So how much red, how much green, how much blue does it take to make this apricot color? The Pantone itself is found in a different area. So this is a Pantone swatch. If I just randomly picked any color, I don't necessarily have the Pantone information for this. What I can do is go into my swatches, which I do not have open, question mark. I did. Here we go. And you're going to go down to this little library icon. I know this has to be so small on the TV, but when you open swatches, there's these tiny little books in the bottom left corner. It says Swatch Libraries menu. Click it, go to Color Books, and you'll see a bunch of stuff. Ignore all the stuff on the top. I just want you to pay attention to the Pantones for now. So you have CMYK coated, uncoated, and metallic coated. The coated versus uncoated is the type of paper you're printed on. So coated paper is shiny. It's got some kind of material on it that makes it handle ink differently. Uncoated is like standard printer paper. It's more absorbent. So when you pick these different Pantone swatches, they're designed to make the things that you're designing print more accurately. So if I use Pantone swatches, I am more guaranteed for it to print the way it looks on my screen than if I just randomly pick something from the color picker. So if I go into CMYK coded, because if you think about a business card, we're probably going to print this on some kind of coated paper, and I pick a purpley color that's close to what I had, and I hover over it, it'll say Pantone P and then some numbers, 83-4C. So then I would just go and write that in there. And then after I have that Pantone selected, now I can double click and see, okay, so this is the new hex code. These are the new RGB values, and put that information in there. So that is all for now. I think we have a decent amount to work on, but we will definitely get a little bit more in depth on the business cards on Wednesday. And I appreciate the day to kind of get my ducks in a row and rest. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. Have a good day.